In part 3 of the Old Testament, we continue with the Ten Commandments.
Do not lie to anyone. Do not want what others have.
God gave Israel the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai that taught Israel how to serve God and be kind to those around them.
Later, after the Israelites had received the Ten Commandments, they were brought to the River Jordan, and they were sent 10 scouts to go to find out if the Promised Land was as great as it was supposed to be. And it was, but there were giants that were there, and Moses was basically facing a rebellion. The people didn't want to go. So at that point, they rebelled. They were going to wander in the desert for 40 years. And that is the rest of the story of the Israelites in the desert.
Why did Moses and the Israelites wander in the wilderness for 40 years? Moses, commanded by God to free the Israelites from slavery in Egypt, led them out with the 10 plagues and the miracle of the Red Sea, guiding them toward the Promised Land, Canaan. God wanted the Israelites to learn faith and patience through the trials in the wilderness. However, the Israelites often grumbled and complained, frequently blaming Moses and God. This disbelief and rebellion provoked God's anger, resulting in the Israelites wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. During this time, Moses led them according to God's instructions, helping them grow. The 40 years of wandering were not just punishment, but a period of refinement to restore their relationship with God and build a strong faith. At the end of the 40 years, Moses gave a final speech to prepare the Israelites to enter the Promised Land, though he did not enter Canaan and passed away before seeing the promise fulfilled.
It was Moses' assistant Joshua who would begin the conquest of the Promised Land. He faced the walled city of Jericho, and again it was miraculous events that were going to allow the Israelites to conquer Jericho. They would march around the city and follow God's direction, and the walls would crumble.
Okay, so the Israelites are camped outside this huge fortified city called Jericho. They're like totally outnumbered and outgunned.
See, I have given into thine hand Jericho and the king thereof and the mighty men of valor.
That's straight from the KJV Bible verse Joshua 6:2, guys. How incredible is that? For 6 whole days they got to march around the city in complete silence. Can you imagine how hard that must have been? The only sound? 7 priests blowing trumpets while they carry the Ark of the Covenant. On the 7th day, they march around Jericho 7 times. The tension is building, and then, bam!
Shout, for the Lord hath given you the city!
The people roar, and the walls of Jericho just collapse. It's the most epic thing ever. Rahab and her family get rescued, showing God's mercy is just as powerful as his strength. Whether it's a tough situation at school or just life being hard, we can learn from Joshua. Have faith, trust in God's timing, and believe that he can do the impossible.
After Joshua's death, the Israelites forgot about God, and they were conquered by other peoples. But then there would be people that were called judges that would rise up to help Israel conquer the people that had been oppressing them. One of these judges is Gideon. There were a number of judges besides him.
His name was Gideon. Gideon lived in a scary time. The Israelites had turned away from God, and now they were being attacked by their enemies, the Midianites. They stole crops and livestock. The people were hiding in caves.
Why does God let this happen?
The Lord is with you, mighty warrior.
Me, I'm just trying to stay alive. I'm nobody.
Go in the strength you have. God is sending you.
Gideon wanted proof, so he asked for signs. First he prepared food for the angel, who touched it with fire and made it vanish. Still unsure, Gideon tested God again. If you're really speaking to me, he said, make this fleece wet, but the ground dry. God was patient with Gideon. And finally, Gideon believed. Gideon called for help, and 32,000 men came to fight the Midianites. Too many men, Gideon. If you win with this army, Israel will think they did it without me. God told Gideon to send home everyone who was afraid. 22,000 left. Then God gave another test at the water. The men who scooped water with their hands stayed. Only 300 remained.
300? That's all?
With these 300, I will save Israel. That night, Gideon quietly entered the enemy camp. He heard a soldier say, I had a dream. A loaf of bread rolled into camp and crushed our tent. It's Gideon. God is giving them victory.
When I blow my trumpet, do the same. Then shout, for the Lord and for Gideon, for the Lord and for Gideon.
The Midianites panicked. They turned on each other, ran in fear, and the Israelites didn't even have to fight.
The last judge for Israel was also a prophet. His name was Samuel. He was going to be told by the people they wanted a king, and God was going to grant their request. And the first king that they had was a guy by the name of Saul. He disobeyed God and didn't follow God's directions. So another king by the name of David was going to rise, and David was going to be appointed by Samuel as well. And King David was going to be a courageous king that was going to try to be a very good follower of God and was going to be the one that the Messiah was going to come from.
A long time ago, the Israelites were at war with the Philistines. The Philistine army had a champion named Goliath, a giant over 9 feet tall, wearing heavy armor and carrying a massive spear. Every day, Goliath stood in front of the Israelite army and shouted, "Who will fight me? If you defeat me, we will be your servants. But if I win, you will serve us." The Israelite soldiers were terrified. No one dared to fight Goliath. He was too big, too strong, and too dangerous. But then a young shepherd named David arrived at the battlefield. He wasn't a warrior. He was just there to bring food to his brothers. When David heard Goliath's challenge, he asked, "Why is no one fighting this giant? We have God on our side." David believed that God would help him defeat Goliath. King Saul heard about David and called him to his tent. Saul said, "You are just a boy. Goliath has been a warrior since his youth." But David was confident. "I have protected my sheep from lions and bears. God helped me defeat them, and he will help me defeat Goliath too." Seeing David's faith, Saul agreed to let him fight. He offered David armor, but it was too heavy. Instead, David took only his sling and 5 smooth stones. David stepped onto the battlefield. Goliath laughed when he saw him. "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks?" he roared. But David didn't back down. He shouted, "You come against me with sword and spear, but I come against you in the name of the Lord." David reached into his bag, grabbed a stone, and placed it in his sling. He swung it around and let it fly. The stone soared through the air and hit Goliath right in the forehead. The giant stumbled, then crashed to the ground, defeated. The Philistine army was shocked. Their mighty champion had fallen. Seeing Goliath defeated, they ran away in fear. The Israelites celebrated their victory. David had done the impossible, not with strength, but with faith in God. King Saul was amazed and made David a leader in the army. From that day on, David's courage and faith became known throughout Israel. And one day, he would become king. David's story teaches us that no challenge is too big when we trust in God.
David was going to be the greatest king in Israel's history, but David also had faults. He at one point was going to see Bathsheba, a beautiful woman that was married to a general named Uriah. David would have an affair with her and would end up having Uriah killed and then marry Bathsheba. This was very bad, and the prophet Nathan came to David and told him his sin. David repented, and that would be so that David was forgiven by God, but also David was going to have a punishment. He basically was told that the sword would never depart from his house. That child died, but then the next child David and Bathsheba had would live, and that is the son that was going to build the temple.
After the death of King David, his son Solomon was chosen to sit on the throne of Israel, young, humble, and full of promise. That night, God appeared to Solomon in a dream and asked, "What shall I give you?" Solomon didn't ask for riches, but for wisdom to lead the people. Solomon's wisdom was soon put to the test when two women claimed to be the mother of the same baby. In the great hall of justice, two women stood before King Solomon, each clinging to a single hope, yet both claiming the same child. There were no witnesses, no evidence, just grief, and a single painful truth hidden beneath emotion. One child lived, one child had died. The first woman cried, "My lord," she rolled over her son in the night and then swapped him with mine while I slept. The second woman fired back, "That's not true. The living child is mine. Hers is the one who died." The court fell silent. All eyes turned to the young king. Solomon didn't rush. He listened. He studied their eyes. And then, without emotion, he gave the most shocking command, "Bring me a sword." Gasps echoed through the chamber. "Cut the living child in two," he said. "Give half to each woman." The first mother broke. "No, please, let her have the baby. Just don't harm him." The second stood firm. "If I can't have him, neither will she. Go ahead." And in that moment, Solomon saw the truth, not through words, but through a mother's heart. "Give the baby to the first woman," he declared. "She is the true mother." It wasn't cruelty, it was clarity. Justice isn't always about facts. Sometimes it's about knowing who's willing to lose everything for love. And Israel stood in awe because they knew wisdom had taken the throne. With peace in the land, Solomon fulfilled his father's dream and built a magnificent temple for the Lord, crafted with gold, stone, and cedar. When the temple was completed, Solomon gathered the people to dedicate it to God. Fire from heaven came down, and God's presence filled the place. The fame of Solomon's wisdom spread across the earth. The Queen of Sheba journeyed far to test him with hard questions and left amazed. Under Solomon's rule, silver was as common as stones, and Israel enjoyed peace and wealth like never before. Solomon shared his God-given wisdom through proverbs and songs, teaching lessons about life, discipline, and fearing the Lord. But Solomon's heart began to wander. He married many foreign wives who turned him toward their gods and away from the Lord. Solomon built altars to foreign gods, breaking God's command. The Lord became angry and promised that the kingdom would be torn from his descendants. As punishment, God raised up enemies against Solomon. Peace was fading, and the once unified kingdom was cracking. After ruling for 40 years, Solomon died and was buried in the city of David. His reign was filled with glory and sorrow, a reminder that wisdom must walk with obedience.
After Solomon's death, Rehoboam, Solomon's son, became king. Israel became divided, and Israel, the northern kingdom, was going to be starting to worship false gods, and prophets like Elijah were going to confront them. One of the worst kings in Israel's history was a guy by the name of King Ahab.
Ahab and Jezebel introduced the worship of the false god Baal while they ruled the northern kingdom. Elijah announced that because of wickedness, a drought would come. God sent Elijah into the wilderness to keep him safe. There, birds fed him. God then sent Elijah to the widow of Zarephath. He asked her for her last bit of food. Elijah promised that if she would share the food, it would not fail. True to that promise, she had a bottomless barrel of flour and an endless supply of oil. Elijah also blessed her by saving her son from death. A bit later, Elijah met King Ahab and the prophets of Baal and challenged them to see who was the true God, Jehovah or Baal. They would both pray to their God to start a fire. Team Ahab went first. They danced, they cut themselves, but nothing happened. Elijah taunted them. Is little Baal too tired to come out? Is he having his nappy no? When it was Elijah's turn, he had the people pour water on the altar. The people turned to God, and Elijah prayed, ending the drought.